Welcome to the Simply Vegan podcast, brought to you by the team at Vegan Food and Living, the UK's best-selling vegan magazine. Happy New Year, everyone, and welcome back to the Simply Vegan podcast. And of course, happy Veganuary 2022. If you're new to veganism, welcome to the podcast. We're really excited to have you here and to support you on your challenge this month and hopefully your vegan journey beyond that. For those listening for the first time, I'm Holly Johnson and my co-host is Molly Pickering. We're members of the Vegan Food and Living team. I'm the ex-editor of Simply Vegan magazine. Sadly, Molly can't join us today due to personal reasons. But hopefully she'll be back with us next week. We publish 2 episodes each week. On a Tuesday, Molly and I chat about all things veganism. This month, obviously, we'll be focusing on Veganuary, so lots of tips for beginners, recipes that we enjoy cooking, and just little kind of food hacks, things like that. And of course, taste testing the new products. There's so much out for Veganuary. It's incredible. Everyone's kind of releasing new products, which is really exciting. And on a Thursday, we speak to some of the leading names in veganism. So this Thursday, I'll be speaking to the Plant-Based Food Alliance, which was formed to kind of champion the future of plant-based food in the UK, focusing on environmental reasons. So I thought I'd start today's episode by talking about my vegan journey. I went vegan around 4 years ago. I met a PT who I was doing like fitness classes with, and she would kind of drop in little kind of hints about veganism. And she was, super fit and strong, looked really healthy. So obviously I was quite inspired by her. And then I took one of her workshops and it kind of taught me how to cook plant-based food from scratch. And I do feel really lucky that I kind of came into veganism via that way, because I think there's kind of different ways of doing it, and no way is right or wrong. And I think, really like keep that in your mind. What if you end up, cracking on day 5 and eating meat or cheese or eggs or whatever, just let it go. Don't kind of beat yourself up. It doesn't mean you failed. It means you should be celebrating, all those meals that you've cooked that were vegan, and just keep going. Don't kind of think, well, that's it. I can't do it, because you seriously can. And I honestly can say I feel the best I have ever felt. I'm 43 now. And I feel fantastic. I've got so much energy. My skin is glowing. I used to have horrible skin. I don't have asthma anymore, which is often linked to dairy. And it's changed my life, really. I just feel it's right for so many reasons. And obviously, you will have come to Veganuary, no doubt, with your own reasons, whether that's because you want to, feel healthier. After Christmas, we've all been indulging in way too much cheese and processed food. Not to mention all the booze as well. If you're doing Veganuary and dry January, then good luck. I'm going to kind of attempt it, I think. Obviously I'll be doing Veganuary anyway, but trying to stay off the wine for a few weeks. There's that side of things. And then, of course, you have the environmental reasons, which are just, they're just huge. I mean, animal agriculture is one of the leading causes of pollution. It's polluting our rivers, our waterways. It's polluting the air, gas, methane emissions caused by the beef industry. I mean, whichever way you come at it, it's a no-brainer to, really cut out meat and fish and dairy and eggs from our diets. There's also, the factor of the animals who are being forced to live in horrible conditions. I mean, I'm not going to go into details, but if you want to listen back, if you are interested in that side of things, having listened to the last episode of 2021, I spoke to Juliet Galatly from Viva, and she's been into factory farms and does a lot of work which is very much focused around the animals. And it's, it's horrendous what we're doing. And it's not only awful, horrific for the animals themselves, but it's really dangerous for human health. We've got an outbreak of bird flu. I think it's Europe's worst ever bird flu outbreak going on at the moment. My sort of main tip would be educate yourself, because doing Veganuary, it's so easy to be persuaded by other people that, why are you doing this? There's so many people that will argue against veganism, but actually when you start reading up on it, like watching the films, there's so many films on Netflix. Just Google vegan documentaries. You've got What the Health, you've got Cowspiracy, you've got Seaspiracy, you've got The Game Changers, books like How Not to Die, which sounds pretty heavy, but it's actually a really good book that you can dip in and dip out of. And it's got loads of scientific facts and, lots of information from studies that they've done. You've got the China study by Colin T. Campbell. Again, I spoke to him way back in series 1. So if you want to kind of scroll back through on your platform of choice, you can hear what he had to say. I mean, he was a game changer for me, because he wasn't vegan, and he was kind of a scientist back in the 70s, and he was doing studies. He came from a farming background, so he was completely, thought animal agriculture was kind of the norm and the way to go. And he, through his studies, found that, to quote, what he said on the podcast episode, he discovered that cancer cells could be turned on and turned off in mice with dairy. Of course, he doesn't call himself vegan because he did do these experiments on animals, and that's what you did back then and what still goes on now, unfortunately. Yeah, so he found that, consuming animal products was so closely linked to cancer and a huge variety of diseases. So any of his work, sort of delve into it. You'll be going down a rabbit hole, just warn you, because there's so much information out there. But it just really helps to cement in your mind that what you're doing is right. Again, whether it's for environmental reasons, the animals, or your own health, there is so much evidence out there. If you do get stuck, have any concerns, whether it be where am I getting my protein from, or anything at all, you can email us simplyvegan@anthem.co.uk. We work with the plant-based health professionals, so you have exclusive access to speak to doctors and nutritionists who are highly skilled in what they do. They're highly qualified, and so drop us an email and they will answer your questions. I know there are a huge amount of questions when you first go vegan, and it is sometimes hard to know where to start. There's kind of two ways of doing things. You can just begin, and this is a new thing, of course, because all these amazing vegan products that we now have in the supermarkets have only become available the last sort of 3 or 4 years. But you can just start by swapping like for like. So, for example, if you want to have, I don't know, let's say fish fingers, chips and peas, well, you can buy processed vegan fish fingers. And they'll be made from things like soy protein or pea protein. Not, this is a processed product, but it will have a lower impact on the environment. You won't be killing an animal, and more often than not, it's actually slightly healthier than the other option anyway. Or you could buy soya mince, for example, to make a spaghetti bolognese or a lasagna. All those products are there. If you want vegan cheese, that's there too. Again, it's, I think I'd say experiment with vegan cheese. Don't expect it to taste like dairy. And the weird thing is, after 4 years, my taste buds have changed so much that if now I have dairy, it tastes like cows. It tastes like really sour. So your taste buds are still going to be used to that dairy taste. So don't expect to kind of eat vegan cheese and for it to be exactly the same, because it won't be. And if if you're finding that tricky, I know a lot of people find cheese to be a bit of a sticking point when they're going from, omnivore or even vegetarian diet to vegan diet, maybe just cook meals that don't require cheese, or you can use different alternatives, which I'll get to in a moment. But yeah, so just start by just keep it easy, swap like for like. And, you know, obviously you've got all the plant-based milks. Again, just try a few different ones, see what's on offer. If you don't like one, it doesn't mean you might not like the other, or, you know, like I said, your taste buds do adjust. So just kind of keep going with it. Don't instantly think, oh my God, this tastes disgusting, I can't do this, because you do get used to it. And actually, you know, look at the impact of dairy milk. I know the BBC have got a brilliant chart, if you just kind of search on their site, of the impact of dairy milk compared to like any of the plant-based milks. I think last time I checked, I think it was like oat and soya were kind of the best. I think almond was slightly worse in terms of environmental impact. But also think about, where does this come from? You know, what does it take to produce dairy milk? It takes a cow. Okay, so it's got to be a female cow, of course. And this might sound obvious and patronizing, but I never thought about this, because you just don't, do you? So it's got to be a female cow, and the cow has to have had a baby. So the farmers obviously impregnate the cow, and they have their baby, and the baby then is taken away. That was a huge kind of revelation for me, because, you know, you just do not think about this growing up. And it's just normalized in society for us to consume dairy. But actually, is it really normal? Like, I saw this meme the other day, and it was of this guy just sort of sucking on, it sounds horrible, but it was a guy sucking on a cow's teat, or pretending to, and just saying, you know, if you find this weird, well, this is pretty much the same, although the milk is probably taken off to be, you know, pasteurized, sterilized, whatever they do to it. But does that make it really any different? They're taking the calves away. They then kind of usually sit in sheds. Sometimes they're exported live to be then killed for veal. I mean, it's just horrid. Have a look on the Veganuary or the Viva websites, and if you want to learn more about that. And also, of course, the Vegan Food and Living website, there's plenty of articles on there as well. So yeah, the other way of doing things is to go whole food, plant-based. Now, this can be trickier. It can take more time. However, it's obviously much healthier. It's cheaper because you're not paying for these, you know, pricey processed products. And it's a different way of cooking. I mean, that's what I did when I went vegan. And I was, like I said, I was very lucky to have someone who ran a workshop to sort of teach me how to cook in this way. But it's just about basically cooking from scratch and cooking in a different way to how you're used to, but it doesn't mean that it's harder necessarily. It's just getting used to new techniques. So, for example, say your favorite dish is, I don't know, macaroni cheese. So how are you going to make a cheese sauce? Well, perhaps before you might have made a bechamel sauce with flour, butter, cheese, and milk. So how I would do this now on a whole food plant-based diet, which is the best way to do things in terms of health, because you are just going to get so many nutrients into your diet. You're going to feel so much better than if you switch for lots of processed products. So I would soak some cashew nuts, and to soften them up, then it makes them blend up easier. It makes them easier to digest in your gut. Obviously, gut health is a huge thing, and it could take you a little while to adjust to your new diet. So it did for me, and don't be put off, because sometimes it can just take a few weeks for your stomach to go, oh, okay, this is how we're doing things now. But I promise you, long term, your gut will be so much happier. I would then put the cashews in a blender. I use a NutriBullet, but you can use like a food processor, and add a little bit of plant-based milk. So it could be cashew milk, oat milk, soya milk, whatever you prefer to use. I then add a thing called nutritional yeast, which is available everywhere now. You can get it in Tesco and Waitrose and Asda and, you know, health food shops. It kind of adds like a slightly cheesy flavor. And it's often fortified with like B12 or vitamin D, which is obviously really important to add into your diet, whether you're vegan or not, actually. So yeah, add some of that. I add a little bit of garlic. Actually, I add quite a lot of garlic, but often I get complaints from my family if I add too much. And some Dijon mustard, a little bit of lemon juice, blend it all up, and you'll have a creamy, cheesy sauce. So add that to your pasta or whatever, you know, your macaroni. And again, remember, it is going to taste a little bit different. And if you can always add a bit of processed vegan cheese in there as well, if you want it to kind of taste more like what you're used to. Other ways of doing things. So if I was going to do like a spaghetti bolognese or a chili, I might blend up mushrooms and walnuts. So walnuts are great because they give you that little bit of texture. Often with vegan food, you really need to get in texture rather than it being kind of too soft and too mushy. Mushrooms are a great meat replacement because they have that meaty texture and flavor. So I'd blend those up. Make sure you add in loads of like herbs and spices. So things like, you know, basil or chili, soy sauce. That's a great one to use. Worcester sauce isn't vegan. I think it's made with anchovies, but you can get vegan versions of that. And maybe like a bouillon powder, like a vegetable stock, anything like that that's going to add flavor. Dried mushrooms are also incredible. They have such a deep depth of flavor. So they are really good to use. And if you soak them, just kind of reignite them, you can kind of use the broth from them to add a lovely rich flavor to your dishes. There are so many incredible tricks to do. I mean, I could go on and on. I make smoked salmon from carrot. I thinly slice the carrot and I steam it or boil it for a few minutes to soften it up. And then I marinate it in caper brine, liquid smoke, which is you'll find in like health food shops, but you can also use smoked paprika and some olive oil, some dill, and obviously add some capers and things like that as well. Honestly, it's amazing. It's just such an exciting new world when you go vegan, and however you choose to do it, I just think just go with it and go at your own pace. Well, if I just go through some of the exciting new products out there for anyone who's, you know, perhaps not new to veganism, but is excited about Veganuary, just because it feels like a bit of a celebration, doesn't it, of veganism? And it feels like, yeah, we're all doing this together and new people are joining us. It's probably a bit sad, but I just think it's such an amazing community. And I think over the years, I mean, obviously I've only been vegan 4 years, but it's changed so much in that time. When I first went vegan, it was still that kind of strict, you know, oh, you ate something with milk powder in it. And for new vegans, watch out, there's milk powder in everything. So just check the labels. But again, don't worry, if you slip up, it doesn't matter. But yeah, it's changed so much. It's not so regimented, you know, just it's more about more of us doing our best than a small minority doing it perfectly. And that's how this is going to work in terms of, you know, sorting out our climate crisis. But anyway, new launches, and Molly will hopefully be here next week, so you won't have to listen to me drone on for so long. And yeah, I miss Molly. She will be taste testing things along with me, but a few of the new launches for this month include fish and chips at Wagamama's. Amazing. So I think it's like they've kind of put their own spin on it. So I think they're using like adami beans instead of mushy peas. And obviously they've recreated that fishy texture, I think using like soy protein and things like that. So that's going to be really exciting to try. There's a new pepperoni pizza at Domino's. There's a vegan Baby Bell. Excited to try that. And Aldi have a new vegan cheese range, which is brilliant. Subway have 2 new launches, including a TLC, which is tastes like chicken, and a TLS, tastes like steak. If you're in the market for a nice Subway roll this month, Starbucks are dropping their milk charge. So they usually charge more for new vegans. They usually charge more for plant-based milks, which is highly annoying. They're dropping theirs, which is great. And they've also launched a vegan tuna sandwich, which I'm really excited to try. I think Costa are also dropping their charge on plant-based milks if you have the app. And I think it's until the beginning of March. So, you know, hopefully if enough of us do it, then they'll maybe keep it on as a permanent thing. Yeah, just loads of new launches. Corn have got some new flavors out. So just keep an eye out. Just to finish, if you are completely new to this and you're in the supermarket, and do you know what? I've been doing this for 4 years and I still find it really confusing. Every supermarket does things differently. Some of them will have a whole plant-based section. Some of them have a plant-based section and then random plant-based products dotted around, you know, so you might find that there's a big freezer section of all the burgers and everything like that. But then there's also, I don't know, a vegan pizza in the vegan section. It's very confusing. And hopefully this will get easier as time goes by and it just becomes the complete norm that, you know, fingers crossed, the majority of us are eating, you know, way more vegan food. But yeah, don't just familiarize yourself with your local supermarket and try the different options at different places as well, because they've all got options. I mean, Aldi have got loads of new things. Lidl's, I went in the other day, they've got some they had these really good mushroom, I think they're called like medaglioni or something. It's kind of like ravioli, but they're kind of disc shaped. They were lovely. And I had those with the Sackler red vegan pesto, which Lidl's also have. That was so yummy when I sort of cooked it together. Asda have their own range. Waitrose, just get out there, experiment, and join all the Facebook groups, because there's so much support out there. Accidentally Vegan on Facebook, because a lot of your products actually you'll find are vegan anyway. I mean, ketchup vegan, I don't know, you know, fruit and veg vegan. It's like, I think sometimes we kind of overcomplicate things and think, well, how am I going to try this whole new diet? But a lot of the stuff we're already eating is actually vegan. You can get vegan mayonnaise. There's just, yeah, it's an amazing world right now. And I'm so pleased to have you here trying out this new way of life, because you won't regret it, I promise. So don't forget to email us at simplyvegan@anthem.co.uk with your questions. And also you can follow us on Instagram at Simply Vegan Podcast, or at Vegan Food and Living on all channels. Like I said, on Thursday, I'll be chatting to the Plant-Based Food Alliance, which is going to be really interesting. They're going to be talking about how they're championing a food labeling system so we can know what the impact is of our food on the environment. Because let's face it, you know, just because we're turning vegan doesn't mean we're necessarily like eating the most planet friendly diet in the world. Our impact will be hugely lower than someone on a traditional Western, you know, meat and dairy heavy diet and fish. But, you know, things like avocado, things like coffee, you know, what are the impacts of these food? How often should we be eating them? So we'll be getting to the bottom of that with them, which, you know, I'm actually looking forward to, because my husband keeps coming home with like 5 avocados and I'm like, no, we can't be eating this many avocados. But anyway, look, it's not about being perfect. We are all doing our best and we're still in the middle of a pandemic. So give yourself a break. Good luck, and I'll see you on Thursday.